Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session where we are going to be exploring how you can unleash the full potential of ABM through a combination of strategy, HubSpot, and 6sense. I cannot be more grateful to be joined by Ash Lojko, who is the principal solutions consultant at 6sense and who also served as a solutions architect at HubSpot for 4 years. So your experience is extremely applicable for today's session, and we cannot be more grateful to have you today, Ash. I'm going to hand it over to you for just a sec to tell us a little bit more about 6sense, but I also want to know, what is your favorite food?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm going to start with that one because it's a little bit more fun. I would say my favorite food as a proud Italian American woman is probably Italian. And some of my coworkers will tell you that I am very well known for eating bowls of meatballs pretty much at all times. That is my probably favorite food within the genre. So that's a known fact about me here at 6sense.
Oh my gosh, I love
Um, And at 6sense, right, we're really working to pave the way for a next generation B2B revenue marketing platform. And we help businesses generate more revenue by better understanding their account ecosystem by analyzing and ingesting trillions of signals from a variety of different sources that we're going to talk about today, and really help outputting summarized intelligence that leverages AI and integrated data to help feed your go-to-market teams the relevant insights. In the last 12 months, we've also really doubled down on leveraging our own generative AI capabilities to not only grow our business, but help our customers bring them into practice, especially for some of those that are our top performers. So we'll be covering all of that today, but thank you so much to the Newbury team for including us in this conversation today.
All right. Thank you so much. So if people have their eyes on the chat, I would love to hear from all of you what your favorite food is as well, to get the chat firing off. I'm going to sort of initiate some conversations through chat throughout the session, but don't be shy. Let us know. Growing up in a Brooklyn, Long Island Italian family, I think Italian is my favorite genre, but the most consistent food, for those of you who know me, that is my favorite food. It is peanut butter. I'm a bit of a connoisseur of peanut butters. So I am Jonathan Burg, SVP of Revenue here at New Breed, and we're on a mission to help companies unlock meaningful growth. So that's utilizing the technology in your stack to really get the most out of it and achieve your business outcomes, and then applying tech-enabled services on top of that to drive meaningful growth for your organization. So that's what we start and end everything with. All right, so today we are going to be talking about the why behind ABX movement. So we've got some really interesting data from New Breed as well as 6sense. We're going to really anchor ourselves on the definition of world-class ABX and then the core pillars around that. And then we're going to be doing a deep dive, people. So we're going to be checking out technology, and we're going to be looking at ways that you can really bring your technology and your environment to life to deliver against that modern world-class go-to-market. Okay, so in the state of HubSpot, it really highlighted the disruption that we are all in today, and the disruption around technology capabilities, buying behaviors, go-to-market strategy, all underpinned by AI. I get to speak to a lot of revenue leaders across various industries and organizations, and these key themes come up as challenges and areas that people are investing in 2025. And it's because of this disruption, right, that I've and conversations in the ecosystem and the things that I'm hearing, that I felt obligated, and our team felt obligated to ask a very challenging question at Inbound, and actually in one of the previous sessions that we were just in on the state of HubSpot. Is Inbound dead? And in our survey, we asked participants what their primary and secondary go-to-market motions are, and only 10% said that inbound was their primary go-to-market. And I think what is happening here is that organizations are working to gain go-to-market fit, and not just throwing inbound tactics at everything. And the key is getting alignment around your go-to-market within your company. So we also asked what your primary and secondary go-to-market motions were. And we found that inbound was the most likely to be combined with other leading go-to-market approaches. So in fact, inbound is in fact thriving more than ever before, but in an appropriate way for different motions. And we also found that regardless of go-to-market strategy, those in the HubSpot ecosystem say that HubSpot is effective in supporting their go-to-market strategy regardless of combination. But the tactics deployed to maximize inbound effectiveness are different. And organizations are really working to adopt and adapt their go-to-market motions to suit their company and buyer needs. So gaining that fit and alignment across your organization is potentially one of the most important things an organization can do. So understanding, how do your customers want to learn? How can you best engage them? How do they want to buy? How do they want to utilize your product? And how can you align your people, process, and technology to support that is critical. So we're going to talk a decent amount about that today. In Kerry Cunningham's research, so he's the lead thought leader at 6sense, and he was on our session last week for the state of HubSpot. If you didn't see it, check it out. They just recently published a B2B buyer's experience report that provides some very unique insights into why some of this is happening and how organizations can do things differently. So in that research, what they found is that the average number of buyers in a buying committee is 10. This is much larger than just 5 years ago. And for each additional member, it adds about 21 days to the sales cycle. So of these larger buying committees, they are 70% of their decision. They do 70% of their decision making prior to reaching out to vendors. So as you can see on the screen here, right, we have research starts and consensus and outreach begins, right? So that is a period of time where that buying committee is doing all of their research about how they're going to solve their challenges and which vendors they're going to reach out to. And during that period of time, that buying committee expects relevant, personalized experiences with vendors. All right, so here's the kicker. After 70%, after that large period of research and selection, when that buying committee finally reaches out to a vendor, right, they contact the vendor that is ultimately wins the business first. So that means if you're the first vendor that a buying committee engages with, you actually have an 84% chance of winning that deal. And if you are second, it is very unlikely that you are going to win. So I used another word as I was talking through this dynamic is the word proactive, right? So what this doesn't mean is that SDRs or sales reps can just start contacting people through bad outbound efforts. In fact, that slightly decreases your chances of winning, right? It has to be on the buying committee's terms. So really to summarize this, right, you can't force buying groups to engage. You have to deliver highly valuable resources in a personal way to members of a buying committee to really increase the likelihood that you're going to be that first vendor, that you're going to be the preferred vendor. All right, so I don't know about you, when I talk through that, it makes me realize that marketing and sales is kind of hard. It's hard right now, right? We're going through an evolution, and the data from the state of HubSpot shows that these changes have made a relatively large impact. And alignment is critical, right? We found the best are aligned around their go-to-market and the metrics that matter. And that does not mean MQLs, right? We found that sales, marketing, customer success, they are all aligned around profitability, new business revenue growth, sales opportunity creation, and marketing was an outlier focused on MQLs. But I think everybody on the call today, right, you're looking at something different. And I think this disruption, this evolution around finding go-to-market fit, this is a reason why many of us are turning to ABX strategies. And it is a reason why we're asking this question. And really, Ash, like this is one of the things that you all at 6sense wake up every single day thinking, wouldn't it be easier if we could engage the people who are actively looking for our solutions that we can help most? And the thing that I see often is that we kind of miss the mark, right? We think about ABX as a tactic, and really we've got to evolve to think about it as a holistic omni-channel approach. So to anchor us on best in class ABX, right? So at New Breed, we see it as a type of go-to-market strategy. Talked about go-to-market a lot earlier on, that combines people, process, data, and technology to surround humans, right? People at accounts that are specifically in the market for your solution. So that's 70%, the people that are doing that research that you can help most, and engaging them in a timely, relevant, and personalized way to enable those people to make the best purchasing decision. And hopefully that is you. And when it is done best, when ABM is done really, really well, it connects and aligns marketing, sales, customer success, and product, and honestly, probably finance and additional functional roles as well, because this is a company go-to-market. And there's a couple of secret ingredients: set alignment and integration. And when we apply those things to three really core pillars around ideal customer profile, identifying target accounts, and taking a buyer group approach, integrated technology and data, and align an AI-powered activation, magic can really happen. So for the rest of the session, what we're going to do is we're going to dive in here. We're going to present some potential challenges that you might be experiencing, a few best practices, and then Ash is going to really bring this to life in the tools in 6sense and HubSpot, and how you can really accomplish some of those best practices. So, all right, I think we're back on track. Ash, what do you think? Are we good?
Yeah, I am very excited to keep going.
All right, here we go. So here's some challenges. You know, I get to speak to, like I said earlier, decent amount of revenue leaders and marketing leaders, and people are doing amazing work. And oftentimes having an ideal customer profile defined is in place, but truly operationalizing it can be a challenge. And here's some challenges that you might be thinking through right now. You're like, oh yeah, actually, like that's something that we could be doing better at our organization. And when you think about, right, defining an ICP, doing it in isolation within your team is easy, but building alignment across the whole organization can be a bit more of a challenge. So I definitely recommend making this a unified cross-functional activity, and using using data to really identify the segments and attributes of a company that are going to lead to highest converting accounts and are going to stay the longest. You have to speak to your customers and speak to your frontline teams to verify that quantitative data through qualitative means. And then finally, make sure you're documenting and training as best you possibly can. Doing this foundational work is going to really allow you to then integrate it into your systems, which is a great segue over to you, Ash.
Awesome. Yeah, and I really loved what you said, Jonathan, about focusing on creating these types of relevant audiences and groupings of ICPs for the different types of products and services that you may sell, really rooting that in taking a data-driven approach, right? Because everything that you're going to power your marketing and sales programs from requires a good foundation. So at 6sense, and with our customers that use HubSpot or other CRMs or marketing platforms, you know, we always focus by starting by defining a relevant ideal customer profile. And for some businesses, you likely probably already have an idea of what that is, right? It could be something that's a defined industry, a company size, a specific geolocation, or aligned by the products and offerings that they sell. But I think where an ABM platform like 6sense can come in and help really augment that and help you understand that ICP at a deeper level, as then we can marry it with all of the anonymous data points, right? Because we know that only 3% of visitors fill out a form when they come to your site. I don't want to raise my hand and tell you that I'm Ash. I don't want to get a call from a seller because I'm still doing my research. So we want to focus on the anonymous activities that are happening on the site, people browsing, consuming content, maybe doing research outside of the domains and properties that you own in the form of intent topics, and doing search in Google and consuming content across those content aggregation sites. We kind of coined that as the dark funnel here at 6sense. It's all the insights into the things that maybe you don't have visibility into today. And then layering in your data, right? The things that you know from your marketing or your CRM platforms, and really marrying that known and unknown data together to create a very honed in audience that's leveraging all of this data and kind of laying AI over that to help understand where those accounts are within this relevant profile, where they are within the buyer's journey. And if we go to the next slide, this is really where we can start to activate those ICP targets and their buyers committee in HubSpot. So as you see here, we're in the target account section of HubSpot, and this is available to customers that have marketing or Sales Hub Professional or Enterprise. But this is where you can see who's on your target account list and what tier they are in. And as you kind of toggle between the tiers, you can see just the analytics on the account. So I was just going to point out that last bit there. And as we move forward, talking about, then building lists that are based on a company in HubSpot. But once you have those ideal customer attributes established, you can essentially make a list for each tier. This is where you'll start to see that marriage of 6sense data coming into HubSpot in the form of these segments or audiences like the one we were just talking about, and being able to create lists to ensure that you're reaching out to the appropriate members of your buyers committee, or you're identifying who they are if you haven't already engaged with them. And then in HubSpot as well, right, you're going to leverage workflows to then set that ideal customer profile tier on each company and set those contacts within the buying committee to their role if they're associated to one of those target accounts. So you can use the segmentation and how you personalize your account-based tactics and really orchestrate your marketing and sales tactic programs to make sure that they're very aligned. And I have actually a case study with a company called PTC. They actually are a longtime 6sense customer who really were trying to understand their ICP. So they spent a lot of time building what they thought was their ideal company profile, customer profile for specifically their augmented reality offering. They do CAD and augmented reality and all these other services. And they wanted to help identify new white space accounts because they just felt like they weren't growing and they didn't really have a good grasp. So they leveraged 6sense's predictive AI modeling. So that's taking in, again, all of those signals to understand the true nature of where that account was in the journey. And then they drove and activated all of their marketing efforts against those journey stages to ensure that everything was relevant. And that, to the point that I made earlier, we weren't reaching out to accounts too early when they weren't ready to talk to sales. They really needed some warming up with marketing to get them to the point where they were ready to have a conversation with someone like me or an account executive that I support. And the impact that had is significant pipeline growth within a 6-month period. So they 7x their pipeline. They generated about 18 million in net new pipeline, as you can see, in the first 6 months. And the team really gained a better data-driven understanding of their true ICP. And I'll just put a little plug in there. It's really funny because the leader who ran this program at PTC, a woman named Sima, she actually came over to 6sense to become our senior leader of marketing because this had such an impact on their business. So there's a lot of power in the alignment on this and ensuring that data is really driving the foundation for everything that you're going to activate.
I love that. Thank you, Ash.
Sure.
And I think some may know this, but that's a similar story from Simon and myself with New Breed. I was actually a New Breed customer in the past, and now here I am, and an avid early adopter of ABX methodologies as well too. So love that story. Okay. One of the things that I've learned over that period of time is that having integrated technology and data is absolutely critical to your ABX approaches. So I can't emphasize that enough because it's going to help you to save time, it's going to help you reduce costs, and it's going to enhance the effectiveness of your cross-functional ABX efforts as well. But that's easier said than done, right? And here are some of the key challenges that organizations, I find, often face when really trying to simplify and create a stack that really allows you to deliver against some of the items that we're talking about today. And these might be relevant to you all on the call. If you're in the chat and you want to sort of mention out any challenges that you have around technology and data integration, please drop them in, or any questions that Ash and I might be able to hit on when we get to the end of the session. But I like to steal a line from another person who was on the webinar last week, which is Scott Brinker, who runs the martech report. It's the graphic that has the thousands of different vendors on it. And one of the things that he says is you need your technology to be as simple as it actually that it really needs to be. So the first thing that I really like to think about doing is defining the process, defining the strategy and the goals, and then understanding what your teams actually need to do across that buying cycle and to deliver really high value to those target accounts. Now, some call it jobs to be done. I like to say it's just creating really good clarity for teams on how to deliver against your go-to-market strategy. And when this is done really, really well, then you can audit your tech stack against that. What are the gaps that you have where you can't actually deliver against that because someone doesn't have the tools or the data? Do you not have the right type of personalization for the omni-channel programs? Do you not have the best sales productivity tools and enablement tools, et cetera, right? And I think the good news for many people on this call is HubSpot delivers a lot of those capabilities, and combined with 6sense, if you have both in the environment, if you can configure and orient that data and those insights in an appropriate way, you have an amazing stack to start with. Now, a stack can look like this. This is with the full HubSpot customer platform, with 6sense fueling your CRM in order to deliver a really solid integrated ABX technology posture. But it can look many different ways. This is a version of a stack that I inherited and optimized that worked actually very, very well in delivering against this. But the most important thing anybody can do in their organization is to drive usage. So we found that the best in class, the organizations that are achieving the highest growth and the lowest CAC, are maximizing the features of their technology. All right, so Ash, I'm going to hand it back over to you so you can highlight some of this data integration and technology as it relates to HubSpot and 6sense.
Absolutely. And I think to your point, Jonathan, when I see customers that are truly succeeding, it is because they've gone the mile to get the integration done, which we all know that can be very challenging, but the power and the insight that you can derive from having all of these systems talks together just really informs that data-driven approach at the foundation of all of your programs. And in the spirit of understanding that most teams operate in multiple systems, right, with data coming in from a marketing and a CRM, a HubSpot, a 6sense, through that integration, we can really start to curate and marry all of the data that we need, both from an ABM platform like 6sense and a marketing and CRM platform like HubSpot. So in this example, this is actually a little bit of a window into the 6sense platform, where we have an example of that audience builder that we were talking about at the beginning, right? We're building an audience where we're trying to uncover maybe some new accounts that we can start talking to. And this is where you can start to see some of the marriage points of the 6sense data, a lot of that anonymous and unknown activity that you may not have visibility into now, and then all of that activity that you're already tracking within the marketing and CRM elements of HubSpot, and informing that audience with relevant data. So we pull together the data to create the audience. And then the next step is to really visualize that audience and the behavior. So Jonathan, if you can go to the next slide. This is, again, a view into 6sense, but this is us saying, okay, now that we've created this audience and we know the counts that make this up, let's get a quick high-level overview understanding of what's happening. Are they coming to our website either in a known or an anonymous fashion? Are they engaging with advertising? Are they consuming topics across that third-party web that we don't own? How many engagements have they had with our HubSpot marketing campaigns or potentially outreach from sales? So as you can see on the slide, I've highlighted some of the 6sense data in teal and the HubSpot data in orange, where we can truly see all of the inputs in one view. So then we can start to make decisions on how do we want to engage. Is the goal to start driving them to our site, right? Because we can actually see none of these accounts have actually been to our website. Maybe that's the end goal. So this visualization can really help you understand, once you've got that base audience, what's happening and where we should go next. And then once we've visualized, right, we are going to start to feed those relevant insights to your go-to-market team. So the first one here is prioritization. Sellers often say sometimes they have a hard time knowing which accounts to go after, right, on a daily basis. With the sales insights that we provide directly in the CRM, HubSpot CRM, this dashboard helps sellers prioritize the accounts for a given day based on the marriage of all of those data points that are scored by our AI model. So telling them which accounts are truly hot and relevant versus, hey, you've got a tire kicker that just filled out one form. This is an opportunity, right? Like, let's get more information. The second is providing an engaging view of all of the relevant accounts where you can understand, using AI summarization, what is actually happening at that individual account. So a seller would click in and get a good view of the type of reach, and how we're actually talking to that account is what we're saying resonating and landing. And then lastly, we orient relevant activities with a full timeline view that actually is not that dissimilar from the HubSpot timeline view. But what we bring in here is everything that's happening anonymously. So I actually told Jonathan and team, I scoped out their record on our site, and you can see they've been very active across our site in a lot of different campaigns. So just ensuring that your sellers have the most informed outreach they can have, so that whatever they're going to say to that person at the account that we're targeting is relevant and lands, and hopefully generates the action that they're looking for.
I love that. And as you can see, there's a lot being digested and utilized.
Yes, there is. And I think, just another example of a use case, Sandler, which some of you I'm sure are familiar with, maybe have used in the past from a seller's perspective. They came on board with 6sense, and they are a HubSpot customer. And their main pain point was that they were just spending too much time jumping from platform to platform. They didn't have integration. They were trying to pull data together, reach out to leads. They just didn't have that cohesive view. So one of the things, and you can go on our site and read the use case and watch the video, but one of the things they said that was the most beneficial for them was when they integrated 6sense and HubSpot together, it created this sense of shared accountability across marketing and sales. And through that data-driven approach, they could then say, okay, these are the tactics that marketing is going to deploy to get sales more opportunities and generate more pipeline. So as a result of that integration and leveraging all of that data, 30% increase in marketing influence pipeline, right? Which as marketers, that's something that we always want to see. An increase in engagement on their website, which was a big goal. They were trying to drive people to more of their landing pages. And then they also created a sustainable lead generation engine. And I feel like working at 6sense, we always focus on ABM and accounts, but we all know that when you're talking to accounts, you're talking to people. And I think that that's something that I get as an objection a lot. They're like, well, we're not focused on accounts, we're focused on leads. And yes, we're always focused on leads, but driving things from the account top down is really what's going to generate leads that actually convert into opportunities.
Amazing. Thank you. And I love the highlight of just unifying in one sort of integrated space, that there's accountability, but also the ease of use. Because let's go back to the earlier point around adoption and usage, right? And now people can actually gain that insights, see what's happening, and really utilize the data in a really easy, effective way. So thank you, Ash. That was a really solid use case to bring the power of integration to life. Now we're at the area that most people start with, which is activation. right? This sort of like the area that everybody like begins with. And I actually believe that that is one of the challenges with activation against an ABM approach is we sometimes too quickly move to just the tactics and the activation against it before really laying down the fundamentals that are going to help us to really achieve success around ideal customer profile definition and integrated data and technology. And here are some additional challenges. So as you're sitting here and you're sort of like digesting and looking at these, right? You may think to yourself like, I have some of these challenges as well within our environment. We're gonna hopefully speak to how the tools and technology that you may or may not have in your environment can help you overcome these. And here's some best practices to start with. So I think AI has changed the SEO game, right? Putting pressure on all of us. And I think you said it so well, Ash. Like, we need to write for our buyers. We need to create content that's going to enable our buyers to make decisions. And if you remember the stats in the beginning, they also want personalized content to help them make that decision. So the really focusing on your content to help people move in the right direction and make the right decision, and hopefully that's a partnership with you. In 2024, there was another research report by the ABM Alliance that said that paid social was the most effective ABM channel across all the different ABM strategies. Now that may not actually be right for you, right? Like, what's so critical and so important is really understanding where your buyers go to learn, right? And having that understanding and then investing in those channels appropriately is absolutely critical. And one thing that I think is really relevant for everyone, and I think we'll see this in some of the different data-based predictions that we're going to have for 25, is that community and creating community around great content is going to be extremely important moving forward. And when I say community, I don't mean a portal that people log into. I mean a community of where humans and ad accounts are rallying around your brand, your content, your mission, and the value to learn from each other and to learn with you, not necessarily just from you, but with you. So does your content have a position? Is the voice of the customer and celebrating the great work that customers are doing, like Sandler and PTC in this session, right? Like, is that embedded in everything that you're doing? And then how can AI and ABX strategies supercharge your ability to create that community and inspire those within it? All right, I'm going to hand it over to Ash to talk about some of the fresh capabilities in both of the platforms that are helping to really deliver for us.
And I just had a thought as you were talking, Jonathan, where, no, we're not creating like a forum for people to go hang out on. All I could think of was the Dunder Mifflin paper store, the virtual paper store where everyone was going to go and chat while they were buying paper. That doesn't happen. That did not. And earlier in the presentation, right, Jonathan highlighted the demand for that personalized and relevant content. And HubSpot recently released the content remix and breeze capabilities that allow you to create one core piece of content that's aligned to a group of target accounts or the ICPs that we've been talking about, and then essentially create versions for each relevant ICP audience or a specific target account. So this is a way for you to essentially gather all the formats, because we know that people communicate or like to receive information across different channels. Everybody's different. And so the content remix is really great way to kind of fuel what we'll talk about next, which is orchestrating that content across the right channel. And so when we think about aligning right, with the buyer's journey. That's something that we always talk about a lot here at 6sense. It's actually somewhat similar to like the HubSpot inbound methodology, which we know things have shifted since that was launched 10, 15 years ago. But the idea is still the same, is that when you can kind of follow that prescriptive methodology around following the accounts where they are in the journey, you're going to have a much better time communicating and getting the conversions and driving them to having a conversation that you want them to have. So in this example, this is a visualization of the buyer's journey, right? So awareness, consideration, decision, and purchase. Awareness and consideration being where we're starting to do some research. Maybe we're targeting with some ads. We're starting to see maybe consumption of topics across that third-party web. And then further down the funnel is decision and purchase. And we know that kind of that handoff point between consideration and decision is typically where you'll see an opportunity open, because we've done our job as marketers on the front end, educating through channels like, let's say, LinkedIn, right? That might be a good social channel for that stage of the journey, which you can kick off through 6sense. Then as we move them along, we start to nurture them through HubSpot capabilities with email, maybe personalized chat on the site. Then as we kind of cross the chasm into what we call more the sales stages, we can proactively alert sales of things that are happening on the accounts that are within that ICP or potentially assigned to those sellers in a proactive way. And then I actually was telling Jonathan when I was setting up this site, I was, looking for some good personalized content based on, maybe where I was coming from 6sense. They do a great job right through HubSpot. We had this nice ABM call to action that popped up. And that's very relevant to where, someone may be in their journey as they're, getting all of this information along the way. So following the journey, using that content to drive them along the journey. And then incorporating other technologies as well. We talk a lot about the maybe the little bit more standard ones, right? Advertising, email nurture, alerting, chat, personalization on the site. But also there's kind of this big, elephant in the room that everybody's talking about, which is generative AI. And this is really becoming a player in the space where you can use generative AI to essentially engage those audiences in a variety of different use cases. So at 6sense, we actually use our AI agents for all of these use cases. The one we always get like a little chuckle over is the awaken the dead, right? Those opportunities that you close lost for whatever reason, maybe there was capability you didn't have, or it just wasn't the right fit at the time. Using AI to keep those accounts warm so that maybe in the future there's an opportunity. But I'll talk through one specific example when we think about, some of the outcomes that we want to drive is getting that account to the point where they will take a meeting. So I'm going to walk you through a real life example. So on the first click, we're going to talk about Nicole Kim. And Nicole Kim is our AI agent based on a real person, right? We always get that question. Well, what if I look them up on LinkedIn and they're not real, right? We recommend aligning them with a real person. And this agent had actively been reaching out to IHG to try to get a meeting. And this was, I think, her second or third follow-up trying to get this person named Michelle engaged. Now, if we go to the next example, after that third outreach, Michelle finally responded to that agent and said, thanks, but I'm not the right person. Why don't you have a chat with Leanne and Daphne, as they're better people to talk to about this, and they'll let you know if they want to have a conversation. So the bot reads that, classifies, and then responds and says, thank you so much, Michelle. I appreciate you looping in Leanne and Daphne. And then the bot actually goes forward and engages them and says, nice to meet you, kind of repeat some of the things that the bot had said in some of the initial emails and trying to get Michelle on the phone. And then finally, Daphne responds and says, you know what, this was great. I would love to have a meeting. How about next week at this time? And then lastly, our lovely Nicole agent, she says, great. I'm going to loop in my colleague Alvin, who on their side was a BDR who was assigned to that account in their CRM. And she knows who to loop in because we have that connectivity and integration with the CRM so they can bring in the right person. You also could do something like populate in a HubSpot meeting link or some other way to have that person automatically go and book the meeting. But like imagine what kind of bandwidth you could open up for your BDR, SDR, XDR, AE. We have all those classifications. If we could have something like this working to qualify those leads for those variety of different use cases that we highlighted, so that when they get handed over to sales, they're not saying, hey, this isn't qualified, or, I don't understand why I'm getting this lead. There's a very clear path to how this lead became qualified and why they have that meeting on their calendar. And this is something that we have been using again a lot here at 6sense to drive pipeline, and all of the AEs that I support have their own bot that goes out and helps them with some of this qualification. But it's a very powerful tool when you think about efficiency and driving towards getting to that qualified point or conversion point and saving time for the team members that typically activate on that.
Yeah. Ash, thank you so much. A couple of questions too, because I know that the accuracy level is extremely high, and also the amount of data that's being used in order to fuel the ability for this to work is also a combination of your first party as well as sort of the revenue intelligence that 6sense is bringing to the mix. So I love to hear a little bit more about those two dynamics as it relates to this type of outreach, because there is a very human element, but also you're bringing humans into the conversation at the right time too. So could you shed a little bit more light on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, well, I hope I'm answering this correctly, but I think one of the things that often gives people pause about using something like this is because they don't have that holistic view of an account, right? And all of the relevant activities that would deem an account a fit to go into a workflow like this. And so with 6sense and HubSpot and other systems being integrated together, we're constantly processing that data. So on our side, we are using that to dynamically update audiences to ensure that we're reaching out to the right contacts. That is happening automatically based on the criteria that you set up. So similar to HubSpot active lists, there's a dynamic element to it. And as soon as the account meets that criteria, they get funneled into maybe a specific type of campaign. And from the engagement perspective with the actual agent, if there is an instance where someone responds with something that the AI agent just can't process or understand, they will send that to a real human to read that and make sure that we set up the appropriate response. But what we've found is that the majority of the time, it's only 1 or 2% of the time that happens. And because we're using the most accurate data to drive who goes into these campaigns, that kind of instance where either the bot's going to go rogue or anything like that does not come up as much, because we're powering it off that data. So the messaging that they're getting is very relevant in an automated way.
That's great. Thank you. We do have a rather detailed question here, but I think it's actually relevant on this topic, so I'm going to ask it.
Sure.
The agent, how exactly does the sort of the communication and the email work from the 6sense platform with the integrated CRM?
Yeah, absolutely. So the conversational email. So typically what the workflow would be is that you would set up your segment in 6sense, your audience. You would push that into a HubSpot list. And that HubSpot list can also contain criteria from HubSpot as well. So you kind of marry that data together. And then with our integration, basically what happens is that list gets picked up for that specific campaign. So anytime someone gets added to that list, they automatically get enrolled into that campaign. And then the conversation itself, the way that you set up that conversation is a couple of pieces. So you inform the bot with potential insight from your business. So specific web pages you want it to read through, informing the brand and tone, right, with some of your marketing content. You can give the bot advice. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll set up a campaign and it'll say, okay, this is a qualification campaign targeted towards, setting meetings. in the first email, add, a case study that highlights, XYZ stat that's going to be relevant. We loaded a case study in that the bot can pull down from. In the second and third emails, let's have some type of call to action and a link. So you can actually be very prescriptive in informing the conversation that the bot is going, or the agent's going to have with that individual. We do also have the ability for you to give it light and form and kind of run on its own. Or you can have a lot of tight control and say, hey, I only want the AI agent to send out 3 emails. And if after the third email we don't have engagement, we're going to turn that back over to a human. So you have a lot of control in informing it, setting up how it runs, and then kind of telling it what to do. Do you want it to go and do its thing, or do you want to have a little bit more control? Because we realize that, generative AI can be a little scary as we're starting off, right? Someone else is writing my content. So we always want to make sure that you have the controls in place that make you feel comfortable.
That's great. Thank you. I'm not surprised that we got a lot of engagement and questions on this exact topic, because it is definitely timely in an area in which people are really trying to think not just how can I save time and productivity with AI, but how can I innovate and actually create really meaningful growth strategies through AI as well. So thank you. We'll land on our last case study here, which is a bit more taking a step back, slightly more comprehensive. So really, this is an organization that had all the makings of a really strong ABX approach, but their team was anchored on more traditional lead gen funnel, and their technology wasn't integrated, and the data wasn't flowing as well as they would have liked and needed in order to activate against it, like some of the ways that we discussed. So because of that, right, there are some challenges that we all feel. There was an alignment between the different parts of the revenue organization. The marketing team was really focused on leads. The sales team was focused on opportunities and accounts. And there was also a reliant on lower converting outbound opportunities. And the sales team, like the case study we heard earlier, was jumping from one tool to the other and really struggling with productivity. So this organization took a step back, engaged in a blueprint process where there was alignment around the ideal customer profile. What are the goals for the ABX strategy at that organization? And then really how to engage and align an engagement strategy for those target accounts. And by utilizing HubSpot Marketing Hub and Sales Hubs to be configured in an account forward way with an integrated 6sense platform and ingesting other data points like G2 as well, this organization was really able to fuel that target account creation, the demand programs, and that personalized outreach, resulting in a 44% increase in opportunity creation over time. So quite a holistic journey, but one that had a very strong output in the end. Okay. Whew. I got kicked off the webinar. I came back in, got to go deep on conversational email. I feel like this was a very fulfilling. I also now know that the next time we have lunch or a meal together, we're going to be eating meatballs and Italian food. So I can't wait to do that sometimes, Ash. And every time I have a session with you, I learned so much. So thank you. I cannot be more grateful for your time and shedding some deep dive technical insights for our audience and our community, for people who are live on today's session, and for any of those of you who are listening post as well. So thank you. To sum up, right, we've got some key areas, really a focus on buying groups and a focus and an understanding that one individual person is not making a decision. You've got a buying committee that you need to engage and inspire. Getting aligned and creating true alignment around your ideal customer profile is actually going to then allow you to maximize your tools and your data. You're going to be able to configure your ABM platform like 6sense around the segments in order to really fuel what you need inside of your CRM. And then I think an area that was threaded through this entire presentation, but wasn't necessarily fully called out, is training your teams, making sure people understand how to know how to use this technology, how to engage with the data, and how it's going to help them to win is absolutely critical. And then finally, right, inspire with content, right? Content has become even more important in this age of AI, and really good educational resources that are going to help people to achieve their goals. But as we saw by Ash, you can go further with AI, and you can do even more in an even more impactful way. We can dive very deep right now into sort of data architecture and what that looks like in order to fuel a lot of these elements. But we covered a lot today, and we need topics for additional webinars in the future. So I think we've got one coming up. But I just want to say thank you so much. Any parting thoughts, Ash, that you would like to leave with to the audience before we wrap up here?
I think the only thing that I would say is, as a consultant I've been in this space now, I've been a consultant for about 15 years. And sometimes what I find, especially for businesses that are new in their ABM journey, that it can feel overwhelming sometimes. And I think when you bring in a partner like a New Breed and pair up with a technology like a 6sense or even other ABM providers out there, lean on their expertise. And we've been practitioners for a really long time, and we want to make it not so scary and unapproachable, right? Like I think there's this really nice way to kind of start things off slow. We talk about this kind of crawl, walk, run approach, right? You're not going to boil the ocean and do everything with ABM, but getting started with a group to understand its power and its ability to really hopefully drive the actions and conversions and revenue that you're looking for. It is the next wave of how we're going to be doing marketing. So I would just say, if you're feeling like it's a lot to take in, it absolutely is. But lean on some of the experts, read up, ask a lot of questions. And I really encourage you all to embark on your ABM journey if you've been hesitant to do so.
Yeah, it's a great call out. Thank you so much. We work very hard to meet our customers where they are and then focus on the thing that's going to make the biggest impact. And oftentimes that's not boiling the ocean, it's staying focused and being really deliberate. That's a great recommendation. And I've been in that exact seat myself. So thank you so much, Ash. All right, so that's actually a really good call out. We do have an ABM blueprint found for organizations. So if you're interested in learning more about what that can look like, aligned to some of the best practices that we discussed today, please don't hesitate to reach out. And I just want to say thank you again. And I got my mission t-shirt on for a reason. We start and end everything with our mission to unlock meaningful growth. And really excited for today's session. So thank you to everybody who is on the call, and thank you, Ash. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.